Welcome to Trenergy TV, and today we are in Offenbach, Germany, and on my side is a music legend, a musician who's been around for 40 plus years. The group that he's in, 25 million sold singles, 15 million albums, and they had incredible songs like Tesla Girls, Maid of Orleans, Forever Live and Die, or If You Leave. On my side, Paul Humphreys from the great band Orchestral Manoeuvres in the Dark, or OMD. Thanks for being our guest.
Thank you for coming to speak with me.
Technically, we're in Offenbach, but Frankfurt is right around the corner.
That's right.
What memories do you have just from the last 30, 40 years of your concerts in Frankfurt, Germany?
I think just generally, Frankfurt has always been great. In fact, Germany has been very kind to us over the years. You know, we've got this sort of spiritual connection with Germany. Obviously, Dusseldorf is like our spiritual home in a way in Germany. You know, we started because of the music coming out of Germany, so we've always had this connection. You know, I mean, as Andy and I as kids, we were, listening to everything coming out of Germany because in the 70s that was the most interesting music for us. There was Kraftwerk, there was Neu, La Dusseldorf. We were listening to everything we could find in our German import store when we were kids. So yeah, Germany has always been great, and every city we come to, the audiences have been absolutely lovely. They've been incredibly loyal to the band over 45 years. We had our 45th anniversary in October. So
long time, great music. Thanks for that. I don't know if you're aware, but Frankfurt has a real big electronic music scene. It's been like that for the longest time. Back in the 90s, Sven Fate, Jam and Spoon. Are you aware like how much of a role model you are for electronic music artists? Paul van Dyk has said Electricity was a big influence on him, and Sash is another big German trance artist. How aware are you of that?
Yeah, I'm a little bit aware, and it's very flattering anyone that says that we've been an influence, over the years, even bands like Radiohead have said they've been influenced by us, and Vince Clarke started playing synthesizers because he heard us on the radio, so yeah, we do have an influence on people, I guess, because nobody works in a vacuum. Other artists have big influence on us. It's just because you hear things that interest you and excite you, and you take something from them.
Congrats on the new album Bauhaus Staircase. I've read some people that said that it was some of your best work since the mid 80s. How challenging was it writing this album? I've listened to it, I like it very much, and because it's a very political album.
It is, yeah. It probably wouldn't have existed if it wasn't for COVID, to be honest. The last album we did was The Punishment of Luxury, and that, our fans loved that one, and it was, very critically acclaimed. We weren't sure if we had another album in us, to be honest. After that took a lot of time to do that album. But then COVID happened. I was stuck in the south of France, which is, not a bad place to be. And Andy was stuck on Merseyside near Liverpool. And both of us couldn't leave. And, and I think Andy was more bored than I was, to be honest. But he kept texting me saying, Paul, have you got any music? Have you got any ideas? Because I want to go into my studio and start working, because there's nothing else to do. Yeah. So, because I had quite a bit of time on my hands, I fortunately had all my hard drives with me. And we never throw away a good idea, ever. We'll just sort of come up with things, and then we'll catalogue them. If they're good, we'll store them, for later use or future ideas to complete them. So I sent Andy a whole bunch of things that I'd found on my drive of ideas I had. And then he started working on them and sending them back, and we both started to get a bit excited, Fortunately, we have these computer systems where they're compatible, so that the whole file opens up and you can edit them easily. So we just kept feeding things to each other down the internet, and all of a sudden, we didn't announce that we were going to make another album, and it wasn't. It took we left it sort of a year and a half before we let people know that we were working on an album, because we started to think that what we had was quite good, So
I love kleptocracy. Is it a compliment or not when people say it's the Tesla Girls 2024?
Perhaps. Kleptocracy is probably our most political song we've ever done. you know. I think the older we get, the more angry we've become about things, and I think if you look at what's going on in the world, there's plenty to be angry about, you know. And you know, we never thought in our time that we would have a war in Europe. You know, we never thought we'd see that. We never thought that Trump could ever possibly get into power. And not only did he get into power, he looks like he might have a chance of getting back into power, which is just the worst possible thing for democracy. You know, we hate we hate Boris Johnson. You know, he took us through Brexit, which was you know, a giant act of self-harming for the British people, and he led us through that. You know, Brexit is just a disaster for the UK. So, you know, there's plenty for us to be angry about, and so we thought, let's just put it in songs. I mean, we have touched on politics in the past, like Dazzle Ships was an album about the Cold War. You know, so we have, but I don't think we've been so overt, so you know, detailed as to our opinions before as we have in Kleptocracy, and also, you know, we're concerned about the world. You know, that's why we. That's why we did Anthropocene. We're worried about our planet, you know, and all the climate change deniers and things that annoy us because you know, don't deny science.
Yeah. My favorite song is Verushka. Is that correct? Or how do you say it? Verushka.
Verushka, yeah.
What's the song about?
The thing about that song, as I was alluding to before, you know, we never throw away a good idea, and I was going through this song started a long time ago, probably 12-13 years ago. Basically, I was in a band with a German singer, Claudia Brucken from Propaganda.
Oh my God, that's one of my questions at the end. I want to talk about Claudia.
Okay, but so we did an album together under the name of 1-2, and it did really well. So we were thinking about doing a second album, and but we never did a second album. So I found a file when I was in France in lockdown that said 1-2 album 2, and I thought, I've forgotten about those things, and I opened them up and I found Verushka on there, and it was basically going to be a song for Claudia. And but Verushka was I think you know, when you're writing songs, you have working titles for things. So I'd been watching, there was a film noir there was like 2 weeks of film noir at one of these art house cinemas, you know. So Claudia and I went to see a lot of these film noir, and one of the actresses was Verushka. So when I was looking for a working title, I just called it Verushka, you know, because you don't want, you know, song number 27. You never can remember them. So if you give them a title, and but it didn't have the song. The song didn't have any words, and so I, you know, sent it to Andy, and he Googled Verushka and went, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna paint film noir images for it." So he did, and he wrote a beautiful lyric for it. So
I love it. Let me just stay with Claudia, just so we don't run out of time later. I have to tell you, Propaganda, A Secret Wish, for me, is one of my 10 favorite albums of all time. It's incredible, and I just never understood why it didn't get more love from the world. I mean, it's a masterpiece.
It is a classic record. I mean, it should be in everyone's record collection. And it still sounds good today. And one of the good things I loved about touring with Claudia was that we stuck like P Machinery and Jewel and into the set, and I got to play them. You know, it was just great. We used to do really good versions of them.
What I always wanted to know is, So in Love was the first hit in the States, and I grew up in the States. I'm German American, so I was in 10th grade when that came out in '85. And why did it take you guys 4 years to break in over there? Because the music from England was big. There were a lot of Duran, all those groups, they were having hits. Why couldn't OMD with Electricity and Tesla Girls and all those great songs? Yeah,
the problem was that we signed to Virgin Records in the UK for the world. But Virgin didn't have a proper outlet in America. And so what they did was that with CBS Records, they did a package deal with CBS Records for a lot of their artists. And, you know, CBS at the time had Michael Jackson. And so all their resources went into Michael Jackson for obvious reasons. And they looked on their roster and go, oh, we've inherited this band called Orchestral Manoeuvres in the Dock. They're a bit weird, aren't they? Let's just kind of, we have a contractual release obligation, so they just put it out, but they wouldn't promote it. You cannot break America without a decent sized promotion budget. So you know, we fought and fought to get out of that deal, and it wasn't until the Junk Culture time, just after Junk Culture, and into Crush, which I think was 85. We managed to get off that deal because we knew A&M Records really, really wanted us and really wanted to promote us. So their A&M's first record was, you know, for single on A&M was So In Love, and they started to promote us. And then all of a sudden, you know, there was interest. There you go. And then we just started rolling from then on. And then, of course, Pretty in Pink happened. And
that's my next question, rolling into that. If You Leave, I read that you guys had to write that in 24 hours.
It was insane.
What after it came out, I mean, what did you like most about the song, just from a musician perspective?
I was proud of Andy and myself that we could actually write a song that quick, that was actually that good, because you know what, as a songwriter, 9 out of 10 ideas you discount, you know, but we didn't have that luxury of doing 10 ideas and picking the best one. We had to get it right first time. And it was horrifying. We had 2 days off before a big American tour started. We had our 2-inch tape of a different song that we landed in LA with to mix. And there was a message at, this is, you know, before mobile phones, there was a message at the hotel from John Hughes saying, call me, call me, call me. So we called him right after we checked into the hotel, and he said, listen guys, I'm so sorry, but I've changed the whole ending of the film and your song just doesn't work, can you write us a new one? And it's like, you're kidding me.
Talking about pressure.
We're going on tour for 2 months. We've only got 2 days. And we haven't slept because we just got off a plane. And he said, look, I'll book you into a studio, into Larrabee Studios, great studio, hire whatever you need and just try to come up with something. So it's actually, strangely, it's the first and only song that Andy and I have written where I'm hammering out the chords and everything on the piano and he's scribbling down lyrics. Wow. We never work that way.
Wow. Did you ever meet some of the actors? Andrew McCarthy, Molly Ringwald, I think John Cryer.
They all came into the studio when we were working.
Awesome.
You know, and there was enough pressure for Andy and I to write the song, and then all the actors came in to say hi, you know, and it was just like, wow. But we met them all in the studio. They came to hang out, and then, you know, obviously we met them at the premiere, but they're all lovely people. What
was John Hughes like?
John Hughes is great. I mean, you know, he'd put Tesla Girls in one of his in Weird Science, one of his other movies. But he was a big supporter of British music. I mean, you know, Simple Minds did Breakfast Club, and you know, he loved British.
Thompson Twins in 16 Candles.
Thompson Twins in 16 Candles, exactly. So he was a great supporter of British music. He just had this passion for it, you know. So he tried to get as much British music into his films as possible. And he gave everyone a great break, you know.
One of my favorite songs is the one where you actually get to sing, because you don't sing as much as your partner. Forever Live and Die. Great production. What do you remember from producing that?
What I remember from that song, actually, it's the reason why I'm singing it, is that I dropped my wife off at Heathrow Airport and I was driving home, and I wasn't really happy that she was going back to America. She was American, she wanted to go back to see her family. And so I wasn't very happy about her leaving, really. And so we'd had a few days off, but we were all set up in a Liverpool studio, and I just started driving, and the tune just came into my head. And I didn't have anything to record it on. The whole song came into my head when I was driving, and I thought, and I tried to scribble down notes that I thought it was, and then I called up our engineer and said, look, I know it's a day off today, but get into the studio. I'm driving back to Liverpool, and we're going to go straight into the studio and record this song before I forget it. We got to the studio, and by 6 o'clock in the morning, I'd done the whole thing, and I didn't want to wait for Andy to sing on it because I had already the tune. So I thought I'll just put it down. I'll probably get Andy to sing it, but I'll just put down the song and the tune.
And at the end, you did sing it.
Well, Andy heard it and said, "You're singing this. You sound great." You know, so.
Awesome. Your last hit was "Dreaming" in the States, if I'm not mistaken. I read that Andy didn't even want it released, but it was a great song.
I know. I think we've re-fallen in love with that song.
Okay.
I think we didn't really like that song at the time because of things that were surrounding it. We were struggling at that point as a band, and I think, you know, but we've looked back and gone, actually it's a really good song, and we've put it back in our set now. We're playing it tonight.
Great. What goals do you still have as singing? You guys have been around 45 years now. 45. I mean, you still a lot of energy. You're still on tour. What would you still like to do besides what you're already doing with OMD?
I'd like to have some time off. I mean, Andy and I have worked so hard on the records. Yeah. Last year, you know, I spent so much time mixing it, record. First I built a studio in France to do the record, finalize the record. Then I mixed it for several months. And then we went straight into festival season. So we're doing a festival every weekend. And then we were into the promotion of the record. And Andy and I were doing promotional tours, and then we were into the preparation for this tour. So we haven't really had any time off for about a year and a half. So, and this tour finishes in April. So I'm looking forward to a bit of time off. That's what
you definitely deserve it. One thing I still want to ask you, and we're really winding down. It's gone pretty smoothly, the interview. How unique is it just working with Andy together? I mean, what exactly are your duties in the studio? I mean, it must change from here and there, but are there any significant duties each guy does for every song, or does it change?
I mean, Andy is the chief lyricist. He's our conceptualist, really. He comes up with these bonkers ideas, and I kind of say, yeah, that's great, or no, maybe we don't go there. And so he's great at that. I do, you know, we share the music, really. I mean, this whole album actually was done completely differently to how we normally do. As I say, we were doing it remotely, but usually the way Andy and I write is that we get into a room together with lots of equipment, and we'll just play. We'll just keep playing. Quite often I'll be playing the keyboards and coming up with ideas, and Andy would say, like that, don't like that, you know, try that note or try something else. And that's kind of how we work. But you know, we usually come up with, when we get together, it's just like throwing ideas into a room. So we'll both arrive with ideas, and then we'll bat them around between us. But you know, I love writing songs with Andy. And he's said recently that he's, in an interview I read, that he actually loves writing with me too. So, you know, we approach music in completely different ways. You know, our approach to music complements each other. We'll each come up with things and ideas that we wouldn't have thought of, but work together. You know, and I think we've written an incredible body of work, really, that I'm really proud of.
You should be, and it's just great that you guys have been together for such a long time and still get along. Yeah. That shows really good friendship.
Well, you know, Andy and I, we met at school, at primary school, when we were 7 years old. So we're kind of like brothers. You know, we'll fight like brothers, but the thing is that we have a love like brothers do. You know.
Do you ever go through an interview where they don't ask you something about Maid of Orleans?
We get asked about it a lot, but you know, it's a song that's been very kind to us.
I think Germany really likes it.
Germany is our biggest hit, you know, in Germany, and you know, last night it was amazing.
In Jena.
In Jena, yeah. It was just the applause after it just went on and on and on and on and on, and we had to kind of calm down the audience so we could carry on playing. You
know. 2 questions, you can add it in one. With what artist would you like to work with if you had the chance? And your last gig ever, what would be the last song you would play? I know on this tour you're playing not the big hits at the end. The encores are a little different from what I read. But what artist would you like to work with if you could? And what would be your last song that you ever played?
I think, as regards artists I'd love to work with, several of them are now dead. So I would love to work with David Bowie, but you know, but I think if I was to choose one, it would be Brian Eno. I absolutely adore Brian Eno. So he would be my number one choice. And final song to ever play live would have to be, and Andy would agree with me, would be The Romance of the Telescope.
Okay.
That is actually our favorite song we've ever written.
Okay. Paul, it was a pleasure meeting you and interviewing you, and thank you for the music. I bought a lot of the albums and I still listen to the music today. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for the interesting questions.